and welcome to part 1 of a CLIL framework for music. Please be aware that you will need to access and download the accompanying worksheet prior to watching this video. Please pause the video and do this now if you have not already done so. Just click on Downloadables. Whether you are the music specialist at your school or a primary teacher who may need to teach music in English, you're faced with a large linguistic challenge: how to teach music in a foreign language. This video will look at different elements of a primary music syllabus in order to provide you with a basic knowledge of the language you will need. Pupils at all levels explore and learn about the following aspects of music: the elements of music, singing and the voice, musical instruments and performing music, music appreciation, composition, and movement and dance. In this video, we will look at them one by one, starting with the elements of music. Here are some of the basic characteristics that describe any piece of music: beat, rhythm, tempo, pitch, dynamics, structure, timbre, texture, style, duration, notation. If we are introducing, concept checking or recycling these terms, in what ways can we characterize or define them for our pupils? You will now see a pause icon on your screen. When you see this icon, it means you should pause the video to be able to think about the task. Pause the video for as long as you like and go to Thinking Task 1 on your worksheet. Your first post-viewing task will also be related to this. The second category in our list is singing and the voice. The passage you're about to hear will contain several key language items that you could use to deliver the lesson. After hearing it, you will be invited to identify these. Here we go. We can also use our voices to create music. We can sing solo, alone, or as part of a choir, several different voices singing together. We can sing a cappella with no musical accompaniment, in unison, singing the same notes at the same time, or in harmony. Singers have different notes which complement each other. Sometimes we may sing out of tune, but with regular practice and listening to music carefully, we can learn to sing in tune. There are different types of songs and song structures. A song is often divided into different sections by a verse, chorus, and bridge. The verse usually begins a song. Verses have different lyrics. They tell us the story. The chorus is a repetitive phrase which usually has the same lyrics and melody. The chorus describes the main message of the song. The bridge is an interlude between the chorus and the verse. Not all songs follow the same patterns. A round is a song in which the singers sing the same structure but start at different times. A carol, a Christmas religious song, usually only has a verse which is repeated, as does a lullaby, a children's bedtime song. In the passage you have just heard, could you identify some of the key language items? Pause the video again and complete Thinking Task 2 on your worksheet. When we sing, we can classify voices by their pitch, i.e. whether the singer has a high, middle, or low range. Children always fall into the category of soprano, whereas adult men are usually tenor or bass. For your second task, in the post-viewing section of the worksheet, you will be set the challenge of identifying some famous examples. Now let's turn our attention to the third category: musical instruments and performing. Musical instruments have existed for thousands and thousands of years. Whilst early instruments may have been used for rituals or as warning signals, later instruments were made to create music for harmonious atmospheres, cultural events, and provide pleasure for social purposes. Instruments fall into two basic categories: Pitched instruments, which are instruments which are tuned, such as the piano, trumpet and guitar, and unpitched instruments, which are untuned. All percussion instruments fall into this category. We can also subdivide instruments according to their materials and qualities. We are briefly going to describe each. While we do, see if you can notice some of the key language structures we use. Stringed instruments make a sound when we pluck their strings, like we do with a guitar or a harp, or bow them as with a violin or a cello. Brass instruments are made of metal. Musicians have to blow down a mouthpiece to make a sound. Brass instruments have keys which we press. Woodwind instruments are made of wood, such as the clarinet, or metal like the flute. Sounds are produced when we blow air or wind inside. Percussion instruments make sounds when we hit or tap them, for example bongos or a tambourine, but we can also shake them like maracas or scrape them like a gyro. Keyboard instruments such as the piano have keys which we press, which in turn make a hammer vibrate against strings, or an electronic sound. Pause the video for a third time and do thinking task 3 on your worksheet. Musicians who play in a symphony orchestra sit in sections according to their musical instruments. Like human voices, we can also organise musical instruments by their pitch, according to whether they sound high or low. Your third post-viewing task will be to do this. Our fourth category is music appreciation. Music appreciation is about listening to different styles of music, exploring and recognising modern or classical composers, understanding basic music history and how music affects us socially and emotionally. You will experience an example of this in your fourth post-viewing task. Our penultimate category, composition, involves pupils experimenting with sounds and musical instruments in order to create music. This might involve self-expression as a response to stimulus, creating sound patterns and sequences with voice and instruments. Selecting appropriate tempo and dynamics for a musical piece, inventing a melody, arranging a song, writing lyrics, inventing a dance sequence, planning and choosing the vocal and instrumental sounds, and applying the structure of beginning, middle, and end. Finally, we come to music and dance, which are intrinsically linked. Without music, would there be dance? It's important for children to understand that some styles of music were composed with dance in mind. Above all, folk music, which is music from different regions and countries. For example, the Irish are famous for their jigs and step dances, the Scottish and English for their country dancing. Russians practice the difficult Cossack dance, and the Argentinians are famous for their tangos. Some dances from around the world become so popular that we all recognise them. Belly dancing in Arabic countries, Kathak, Indian classical dancing, and hip-hop from the USA. You can find a list of the key language introduced in this video in the Glossary of Musical Terms document in the Downloadables section. When you have finished watching this video, go back to your worksheet and complete the post-viewing section. You will also need to go to the external links section in order to access the example links. Once you have done this, you can compare your thinking with ours by downloading the accompanying answer sheet. You can replay this video as many times as you like. Bye for now. We'll see you again in part 2.